the biggest lesson and takeaway for everyone is you just never know.
Yeah.
So preparation, meeting opportunity equals success. So no matter what stage that you're at, if you're preparing, the opportunities will come.
Welcome to Sounds of Health, where our goal is to shine a light on your path to improved health. Each week we invite a guest to share their story, and we uncover tools and resources you can use to improve your physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Today, my guest is Adam Greenberg, a former professional baseball player for the Chicago Cubs and Miami Marlins. He is also the co-author of Get Up, The Art of Perseverance, and the owner of Long Hill Development Group and Plugged Electric Leasing and Rental. Adam's also on the Board of Education in Branford, where he lives in Connecticut with his family. And he's involved in the local Little League and is also a motivational speaker, which I think once you hear his story, you'll understand why. Adam, so excited to have you here today. It's amazing, that list of things you're doing is going on and on and on. But I'm really excited to have an opportunity for you to be on the podcast and to share your story.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and sharing my story is part of my life, and it makes me feel good when all the challenges and struggles and adversity that I went through, to being able to connect with people on a level that they can take something from it. It's giving back and rewarding for me, and knowing what I went through was all worth it.
That's really amazing. And that's one of the things we're trying to do with the podcast, is just kind of uncover some of these stories that are out there, inspire people to live a healthier life, and also to give them the tools that they need in order to do so. So I am going to be completely honest with you. So I actually didn't follow your story as it happened. I think during the time you were in the big leagues and everything was going on, I was acting and I was living in New York, and then started to have my own family. I'm a huge baseball fan. So I'm kind of surprised that it's not something that I was aware of. But ever since our producer, Jason, introduced me to your story, I've kind of dived right in. It's got a lot of things that really resonate with me. I'm 90% of the way through the book, so I haven't finished it yet. But I'd love to kind of ask you about that. I think it's just amazing, kind of the way that you put in the book that it's the art of perseverance. I love just even the phrasing of that, because it really is. I also feel like there's an art to baseball. So I want to kind of ask you a little bit about that and your background. So why don't we just start with you sharing that story? Yeah.
Well, I'll start off with the art of perseverance, as you just mentioned. And when I do motivational talks throughout the country, the one thing that I kind of get into is goals and gifts that people have. And usually ask the question, what's your gift? What were you given that's unique? You can run fast, you can throw hard, you can jump high, you can read well, you're great at math. There's a laundry list of things that people are exceptional at. And I always get to the point of everyone shares one gift in common. And whatever gift you have, if you don't work at it, it isn't as good as it could be. But the gift of perseverance is something that every human being has been given. And just like anything, if you don't work at the art of persevering and overcoming challenges and overcoming struggles and obstacles, that gift goes away. Mm-hmm. It's just subdued. So my story is one of perseverance. I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, Guilford, Connecticut, 5'8" 3/4. No real opportunity. Guilford, Connecticut never had a Major League Baseball player. So if you look at the percentages, I think it's 0.00009375 of a chance to make it. So if you look at something as it's unattainable, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. But I convinced myself that it was attainable and I was going to do it. And understanding that it was such a challenge to potentially get there, I also understood and recognized that there was going to be challenges along the way.
Of course.
But having that goal is the thing that enables you to push through things, right? When something gets in front of you, and I'll get more into that. But when challenges or obstacles get in front of you, if you can see where you want to go, then the challenge becomes less and less. If you have nowhere to go and you're not really motivated or inspired to get anywhere, then that challenge can just bury you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, growing up, you played multiple sports: soccer, baseball, and basketball. That's actually what I did too growing up. Those, I think, were the sports you can kind of just pick up and go play. Yeah. It used to be when I was a kid, there were kids that you can find and go play baseball, pick up baseball. It's not like that a lot of places anymore. But why was it that baseball became such a focus for you?
I think because it was, well, any individual season, that's the sport that I wanted to play.
Sure,
I loved soccer. That was my favorite sport. Then I loved basketball, and I'm going to be in the NBA. And baseball, I'm going to be in the major leagues. Soccer at the time was nothing. Right? There was no MLS.
Right.
You weren't able to really watch the European leagues. So that wasn't anything that I wanted to do. NBA, I just looked in the mirror, and as I said, the attributes really weren't there as this is something that is a reality. Yeah. But really, the truth of the matter is, when I was 13 years old, I played on the first Connecticut AAU team. And now there's an AAU team on every street corner. But it was great because I got to try out and compete with the top guys in the state. And when I made that team, we went out to Des Moines, Iowa, to the Field of Dreams.
Amazing.
And we were the complete underdogs. We were playing against teams that were in the Little League World Series the year before. And we went out there and we did the impossible. We went 11-0. We won the national championship, and I made the all-tournament team. In my brain, I was an All-American, and I'm one of the best in the world.
Sure.
But it was after that where I got real solid instructions, was playing at a high level, and won a national championship. I convinced myself that that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I grew up a Yankee fan, and Don Mattingly and all those guys. Like, that was I'd go to bed listening to the Fan at night. I'd watch every game. I'd wake up to the New Haven Register and look at the stats. Like, I was obsessed.
Yeah.
But again, 13 years old, that was the trigger of, yes, I played all the other sports, but my dedication to baseball was going to be a little bit more. I was going to do that more and do anything I could to make it to the majors.
Yeah, and you were connected to the stories of baseball. I mean, you're saying you were an actual fan and it was accessible to you. So unlike soccer, where, like you were saying, there's not much out there at our age at that time. So yeah, I can get that. I was a huge baseball fan growing up. I'm an Orioles fan. Mm-hmm. My dad was from Baltimore. So a lot of my past and history is connected to the sport. As a fan, I didn't go anywhere with baseball. It wasn't what I had to have, like what you say in the book. What do you have to have?
Yeah.
That was never it for me, but it was a big part of my life. And I feel like I owe it a lot of who I am today to what I experienced as a kid playing baseball and playing sports. So when I was reading through your book, I was the way you tell the stories in the book about how you had this entrepreneurial spirit at a young age, and your parents recognized it immediately, and the dedication you had, the whole part of you being in the swimming pool, swinging the bat, that seems like it's a part of just who you were. But talk to me a little bit more about how you cultivated that and how you used it to kind of get to where you were going.
I think the word obsession is that what I had to have. I have to have success. Like there's not a monetary amount. There's not a very specific thing. At the time, I thought it was only baseball, or only sports. But like you mentioned, I was an entrepreneur selling candy out of my backpack in 5th grade, and I had to be the best. I had to sell the most. Like it was, whatever I do, and I think that's been the biggest eye-opening experience for me is how do I take what I feel it's a gift for me that I can become passionate about anything quickly and I can go all in. How do I help connect with people or connect to people to experience that, to feel that? So where was it cultivated from? Just the desire to win, the desire to have success, because and individual and team success. And cool about baseball, and I speak about this all the time, it's the dumbest sport on the planet. why anyone would choose to want to play. I get being a fan, but as a player, it doesn't make any logical sense. And what I mean is, it's a game based around failure as a hitter. So you're going to go to your job and you're going to fail 70% of the time and have incredible ups and downs, but more downs than ups.
Right.
And be able to overcome it and be excited by it and love that. But what I connect with people and I say, well, the greatest part about baseball is it's the closest thing to life. Like real life and real humans. If you try and you go out and put yourself out there being uncomfortable, put yourself in uncomfortable positions or try to better yourself, there's challenges and there's struggles and there's going to be failures.
Right.
So accepting failure is appropriate when you're acknowledging that there's a learning process versus just failing and quitting. Right. So baseball is to what you were talking about growing up and being connected to the game. You get connected because you start to connect with somebody else's struggles.
Right.
And I think that's part of even writing the book and doing the speaking and coming here and talking and sharing my story. It's not rosy and peachy and all wonderful. If you look at what's on TV and you just say, wow, like Patrick Mahomes just won his however many Super Bowls and he's so good. Well, but go watch his training. Go watch the dedication and the things the sacrifice of what it takes to get there. So again, I think that's part of really doing what you guys are doing here is making people aware that life is not easy. Challenges will happen. Put yourself in positions and have goals and aspire to accomplish those goals, because that is what will push you through the tough times.
Yeah, for sure. It's a mindset thing. And I think that's something you highlight in your book. I love the way the book is structured, because there's the story and then there's in your own words. And one of the things that you, in your own words, are constantly pushing is that it is a mindset thing. It's not just that you either succeed or you fail. It's you succeed or you learn from failure. So you're putting that into action. Baseball is one of those things. And I think that's why I love the game so much, because it does mirror life. There are things and lessons you get from the sport that you can put into your own practice no matter what you do. For me, acting was the same way. I became an actor in college and went out and did it and tried to pursue it. You fail 80% of the time, maybe even more. Who knows? I mean, I obviously didn't have success as an actor. When you went into kind of the story about playing in the minor leagues and how you were foregoing, earning a lot of money, you were living very paycheck to paycheck. That's what I did too. As an actor, the money wasn't that important to me. I was looking for the experience. And I think that's something that also resonated with me, that whole story. But I don't think people realize it's a sacrifice, right? So there's something that's driving you to pursue it, and you are sacrificing other things in your life in order to do so.
Oh, yeah. I never knew what a vacation was.
Yeah.
I never knew what a holiday was. Days off were, the real world had no work. We were playing.
Yeah.
Or we were practicing or training. So when I retired and I was with my wife and it was like 4th of July, go on the boat or a party or whatever, right. It was like, what is it was so foreign. You sacrifice. But again, I never looked at it as I'm missing something.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the important part, is getting to that place where it's not like, oh man, I can't go out and party. I can't go out and do it. No, I'm doing this. So part of that mindset and the healthy lifestyle, I'm going to wake up early tomorrow. I'm going to work out. I'm going to better my physical body so my mind is in a clearer head space, and I can do more things. So if you look at what you're missing, it's how to switch it and change gears to the things that actually do genuinely make you happy.
Absolutely. I think that's part of why so few people actually succeed at that top level, because it does take a lot of sacrifice, and we don't know that. We're looking at it, you don't understand it until you're going through it.
Correct. And I look back on it and living my life and having 3 kids and being involved in this board and that company and whatever it is, I'm busy.
Yeah.
There's no other, you can't have other busy. That's it.
Yeah.
If you want to be at that top level and want to be the best at anything you are, you have to be so narrowly focused that nothing gets in your way.
Sure. Yeah.
So that I would say is a sacrifice for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. So now we've talked about your upbringing. You have how many brothers and sisters?
I'm one of 5.
One of 5. Holy cow. So your parents had their plate full.
Yeah.
Now, how many of them played sports?
Every one of them played sports.
Yeah.
Through high school, they all played. And my sister played college soccer, and my youngest brother played college baseball.
Okay. Now, there was a brother you shared a field with, right?
Yeah. My youngest brother, he ended up playing with the Bridgeport Bluefish.
Oh, wow. So what was the age difference?
10 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I have 2 boys. They're only 20 months apart. They finally made the same hockey team for the first time this year at Notre Dame. They've never been on the same baseball team, but my wife and I, it's just so amazing to have them on the same team. It would be amazing to see that happen.
Yeah, no, and it will. With that age spread, 10 years, I would have never said that it was possible. But in the professional setting, and I was still kicking at my dream and going for it. And my brother got an opportunity. It was special because he was the water boy when I was in high school.
That's unbelievable.
It's super cool to have had that experience.
That's great. And one of those things, that moment never would have happened if not for everything that preceded it.
Correct. Yeah. And that's part of, and we'll get into it, but the story of what I went through, the struggles, the being at the top of the mountain and down at the bottom for a long time.
Yeah, sure.
I always look back and I say every part of it was worth it.
Right. That's amazing. Okay, so continue with the story then. So what happens from there?
So high school, 3 sports, as you mentioned. It was very, I'll use the word easy because I had a lot of success. I was all-state in baseball from my freshman year all the way straight through my senior year. We won the state championship in soccer. I was All-American, all New England a couple of years. Basketball, all conference. I mean, I'm sharing this just to kind of point out that it was a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
But things kind of came easy in the sporting arena because sheer determination and grit. I was going to win. We were going to succeed. That was the way that it was. Went to college, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And it was the best place for me to go to school. Great baseball, great academics, and it was just a perfect fit.
Yeah.
And I went down to the fall of my freshman year, and I didn't really perform at the bat as great as I had in my entire life. So that was a first little challenge, but I was determined to be the center field, lead off, that was what I was going to do. And through my defense and just the at-bats, getting on base that I was, and stealing and doing the little intangible things, when the season came around, and it was actually January, we went down to Florida for our first, it was called the Disney Blast, and it was our first tournament. And I really had got maybe 1 or 2 hits in the entire fall. Coach called me up while we were on the bus driving down because it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and he said, "Hey, you're going to be center field and you're going to lead off." And it was just unbelievable dream come true. That was, it was just really, really cool to know that. And my first at bat, I struck out, led off, and I struck out. And at the time we had to run back to the dugout. And I ran back to the dugout and sat there, and this is where mindset comes in. It was an opportunity to be, oh my God, I just struck out. I didn't have the best fall, and you could let your mind go into that negative spin.
Yeah.
But instead, it was flip it. Oh my God, that was no different than any other at-bat that I've ever had, and I can and I will succeed. So put your head between your legs, feel bad for yourself, or get up and keep going and move on. So the next at bat, I hit a ball off the right center field wall, and I was rounding second base, and my legs just started getting like jello.
Yeah.
It was so nervous excitement. I almost fell between second and third, but I got on third base with a triple, and it was just like a sense of relief and excitement, all those emotions. And I ended up going 6 for 12 for the tournament, made the all-tournament team, and the rest was history. Went on a 21-game hitting streak, and was hitting over 400 throughout the entire season until the last couple games. But there was again, I'm going to the major leagues.
Yeah.
Like freshman year, having those accomplishments, I was asked to go play for Team USA, went to the tryouts, the likes of Ryan Howard and Mark Pryor. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of major leaguers that are there today,
right, yeah.
Or were there today. I'm old now, but it was incredible. I didn't make the team. There was some politicking that went on. A couple guys that were older that didn't sign professional contracts and that were on Team USA the year prior. So I ended up going to a league in North Carolina, and that was during the summer, and it was just not a good experience for me.
Okay.
And it was probably the first time I experienced something that wasn't, wow, this is great. And I didn't excel, and mentally I wasn't there. I mean, I was made, Team USA, and then down here, and Cape Cod League wanted me to go there, and they wouldn't let me out of my contract. It was just a lot of things that I wasn't used to.
Right.
I stuck it out, and then went to the fall, and right before fall practice started, I was in the weight room, and I was lifting and dropped 2 dumbbells and caught my fingers in between 2 dumbbells that were on the floor.
Wow.
And my fingers were kind of dangling from my hand. And you want to talk about like being nervous and like thinking what is about to happen. And I, again, never experienced any sort of traumatic injury. And I remember going into my head coach, Mike Fox's office, and I put my hand in my stomach, and there was a huge pool of blood around my on my stomach, and the coach thought I got shot.
Oh, wow.
So I'm losing blood, and he ends up rushing me over to the hospital, and he gets to the surgeon, and he said, "Hey, you got to save his fingers. He was the rookie of the year in the conference last year." That's the only thing I remembered.
Yeah.
So I guess that made me feel good and comfortable, and I was like, "Oh, he must like me." But that was a very, very difficult time. I had multiple surgeries. I couldn't really bend my hand fully or clench a fist, so I didn't play in the fall.
Yeah.
I went through a bout of depression, and I never knew what that was, but I guess I wasn't eating well, or I wasn't eating a lot at all, and just started going down this mental spiral of just didn't know what to do. Even got to the point where I was ready to go home and quit baseball. And I hadn't even played. So that's the first challenge and struggle that I had ever had, and it was over a finger. Right. So I kind of, you look back on it and you go, well, that's stupid. Like how could I have gone that far down that quickly over a little finger injury? But nonetheless, I figured out that if I don't talk about it, if I don't ask for help or reach out to people that could potentially help me, then I was doing myself a disservice. So I got to that point. I was bottom of the barrel. Spoke to my coach, told him what was going on. Thankfully, he cared enough. Right?
Yeah, that's great.
And then I worked through it. And that was an awesome thing for me because it gave me a baseline and a foundation of how to start overcoming things that I would experience going forward.
Right.
So I came back during the spring, had a good year. If you look at my numbers, they were fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, it wasn't exceptional from the previous year, but I ended up playing in Cape Cod that summer. So my sophomore year, and knowing that this is the year, like when you're a junior, that's when you're going to get drafted, and that's hopefully when that you get the opportunity to really pursue your dream. And I came back, had a good fall, so I was able to get my physical body healthy. Mm-hmm. My mind was really sharp at the time, and I came back my junior year and really had an A+ year. So statistically, I did everything that I possibly could, and then got an opportunity with the Cubs. They drafted me in the 9th round. Wasn't exactly where I was being told or where I wanted to be drafted.
Yeah.
But when I kind of weighed my options, I could go back to UNC Chapel Hill, get my degree, break almost a lot of, if not most of the the batting records.
And you were already in the record books, though, at this point, right? There was one where you hit for the cycle quickest?
Not yet.
No,
not yet.
This was after that? Okay, gotcha.
That was professional.
Okay, but you're in the record books there.
Yep.
Okay, great. And this is a big decision, whether you're going to go back to school. That team was competitive, right? So possible you win a championship and get in the record books, or you're going to continue on that path to pursue your dream.
That's it. That was it. College baseball, World Series would have been maybe awesome. But at the end of the day, for me, it was not about the money. And since it never was about that, it was, and the Cubs that drafted me had huge talent in the outfield, huge, like young prospects, were all top 1, 2, 3 round guys that they had in their system. But when I looked in the mirror and I was like, okay, I'm getting an opportunity, and it doesn't matter who's in front of me or what I'm getting. This is what I've driven and been my passion my whole life. So if you give me cleats, give me a uniform, give me a glove, and give me a bat, then it's up to me, and I get to kind of create that opportunity on the field. So I convinced myself of that.
Yeah.
And I said, let's go. It didn't matter that I was going to Lansing, Michigan, making $850 a month and living in the basement of a host woman's house. And I didn't have a car. I mean, none of that mattered.
Right. Yeah.
12-hour bus rides, 13-hour bus. It was a dream come true.
Yeah.
So that's what I decided to sign that contract and go out. And
That's
playing.
amazing. I love how you frame that, and how it didn't matter who was in front of you. This was what you were going for, and nothing was going to stop you.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so continue on from that.
All right. So I start in Lansing, Michigan, get off to, I'll say, a pretty good start. It wasn't exceptional, but it was, I was hitting over 300, so I was doing well and playing every other day. Then I got to play every day for a few days, and then I hit a little slump. And in baseball, as you know, because you followed it, you can go from 300 with a small sample size of an at-bat, and then pop an 0 for 10 or 0 for 12 in, and you're close to the Mendoza line. You're close to 200.
Right. Yeah, easily.
And that's kind of what happened. A few days without a hit, and then I found myself on the bench. And day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and in professional baseball, you're playing every day.
Yeah.
So it's not just those days I'm not playing, we're not playing. The team is playing, and I'm watching. And I didn't get to pinch hit, pinch run, nothing. I didn't see the field. And it was 8 straight days. And when I went into the dugout the night or during the game of the 8th day that I wasn't playing, I looked myself in the mirror in the clubhouse, like in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And when I do these speeches, I tell people, if you ever looked yourself in the mirror, and of course, without saying like how good you look or just doing your hair or whatever, like look yourself in the mirror and say, what do I see? What am I doing? What decision did I make? So I started second guessing a lot of those decisions of, should I have gone back to school? Should I got my degree? Should I have given my chance to play in the World Series? All of those things.
Yeah.
And as quickly as that came into my head, it was like, just get out of here. Like, knock it off. I picked this.
Yeah.
The Cubs didn't make me sign. The Cubs didn't force me to be here. This is what I strove for my entire life. Running up hills, foregoing vacations, bringing and doing my training and doing everything that I could in my life to be at that point. So again, feel bad for myself or figure it out to mentally be ready for when the opportunity comes. And that was my first at bat in college. It was that mental switch of stop feeling bad for myself and just be mentally ready. So I decided at that time, I'm going to do extra bunting practice, extra batting practice, like get to the field earlier.
Right.
So when my time comes, at least I'm ready. And sure enough, the very next day I came into the clubhouse and the manager wanted to see me before I got dressed. Now, knowing what I know now, I would have been nervous, right? Because I've been released. I know, hey, don't get dressed yet. Don't get dressed. That's usually not a good thing. And when you haven't played for 8 days, you kind of add those components up. But I was like, okay, let's see what he wants. So I went in there And the manager, it was Julio Garcia at the time, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that the reason we didn't play you is because we knew you were going up, and we were moving you up." Now, that was BS. I knew they had just made a trade for a kid who was 6'7". He was a second rounder for the Pirates. He got $500,000, and the Cubs just traded for him. So if you do the math, we were one of the best teams in the league. We'd already made the playoffs, and the high A team in Daytona was worst team in the Cubs organization. Bottom of the barrel, like last place. The center fielder was getting promoted to Double A, so I was the odd man out.
Yeah.
So they were bringing a better guy in, and anyway.
So this is going to be a step up for you.
It's going to be a step up.
But the quality of baseball, or at least the quality of the team you're playing with, is a step down.
Correct.
Okay.
And it was really, I was just going to fill a hole. I wasn't getting promoted, but in my mind, it was, oh my God, this is an opportunity. And when I went into the manager, his name was Dave Tremblay, who ended up being the Orioles manager.
Right.
So Dave sits me down, and he said, I want you to bunt when you want, hit when you want, play hard, play good defense, show up on time, and we won't have a problem. Are you good with that? And I looked at the dude, and I didn't say it, but I was like, I love you, man.
Yeah,
like,
right. This is what you were wanting.
This is all I want.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah.
So first game, he sticks me out in center field and leadoff batter, and first couple games go well. And then I think it was the fifth game. Then this is where the story comes in. Fifth game, I go from a guy that was a nobody, and in the book I call it a suspect.
Yes,
that's what we are. We're all suspects until we're prospects. So the day of that game just so happened that the farm director, the field coordinator, the outfield roving instructor, the cross checker, like all, we call them the brass, the bosses. They're all at this game on the worst team in the Cubs organization, and they're just there. Now, I didn't know all the people. I didn't, I'd seen some of them sporadically when I was in Lansing. Nobody said hi. Nobody knew my name. That's how I thought. First at bat, I led off with a home run. First inning. Second inning, I get up and I hit a triple off the right center field wall. Third inning, I don't bat. Fourth inning, I get up, hit a bunt base hit down the third base line, bat around, and they bring in it was like the third pitcher. They bring in a lefty, and I hit a ball off the right center field wall again, and Tremblay holds up the guy at third base.
Yeah.
And I'm standing on second base, and the crowd erupts. And my teammates are clapping at the top of the dugout. And quickly then I realized I just hit for the cycle in 4 innings. So
that's unbelievable.
What was really cool is I ended up 5 for 6 in the game. I think I made 3 diving catches in center field. My only out was a line out to shortstop. But it was great because I signed autographs for an hour after the game.
I bet.
But after I was done signing autographs, all of the brass that I was talking about, they stayed and they waited to introduce themselves. And
wow,
it was wild because again, I went from a suspect nobody to a prospect, and I'm like, I'm the same guy, same player,
right? But
opportunity, I seized the moment, and there I ended up going. I hit like 380 for the rest of the year, stole a ton of bases, played great defense, and that moment solidified, even in my own mind, I can play and I will make the major leagues.
That's amazing. As you're telling the story and you're going through things, you started to learn at a very early age the business of baseball and how the business of baseball could get in the way of what you're trying to accomplish as a player and what you want for yourself. This is a great moment where kind of the stars aligned for you and you were ready for it.
Yep.
So you took advantage of it. But man, just to have the stars align, like the amount of luck that is involved in getting to that moment, having you be ready for it and to be able to shine in that moment, I can't imagine what that experience was like for you. It's unbelievable.
It really was. And I think the biggest lesson and takeaway for everyone is you just never know.
Yeah.
So preparation, meeting opportunity equals success. So no matter what stage that you're at, if you're preparing, the opportunities will come. In anything that you do, you never know when, you never know how or why or what it's going to look like. But if you are prepared and you're going for something, the opportunity will ultimately be there. And then whether even you take advantage of it or not, your success has already happened because you prepared for it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yes, the stars aligned. I was lucky. But at the same time, I made my own luck because starting when I was however old.
Oh, yeah.
You build for that moment. So again, that's where it's like I'm just very, very grateful that I didn't give up on myself.
Yeah.
And that they gave me the opportunity.
Yeah, the fact that luck is a factor in things doesn't take away from the accomplishment at all. I mean, because luck is such a big part of everything. Things happen, sometimes in a very random way. So the fact that you were able to take advantage of it, I think, is amazing.
Yeah, and again, I speaking to the broader audience of not just sports and athletics is whatever you're doing, if you're preparing, you might not even be preparing for the opportunity that you think that you were going to get.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like with my own life and the businesses that I'm in now, just as that kind of example, never would I have thought I would have been running a baseball bat company. Never would I thought I would have been running for state senate. Never would I thought I would have wrote a book, motivational speaking, running a development company, owning a nutrition business. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But it's because of everything that I did from that young age of preparation for whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point is if you give up and you quit and you feel bad for yourself, well, guess what? Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put yourself out in positions and anything can happen is really the objective of moral of the story.
Yeah, it's a choice. It's an active choice.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's amazing.
So, all right. So after that game, after that season, Cloud 9, life is great. I'm getting there. Next year I go to spring training and all the guys that were on my team that were hitting 200 or 215 and I'm hitting almost 400, they get promoted and go to AA and I'm back in A-ball.
The business of baseball.
The business of baseball. And I ended up going the first couple of games. I get hurt. I slide over a baseball bat. I have a hematoma in my leg. It was horrible. The next couple of weeks were terrible because I couldn't run. I made the decision. I'm like, I'm going to get fixed. Had surgery, flew to Chicago. Because I went through the challenges when I was in entering my sophomore year with my finger, it was a very different experience. I didn't have the game, but I didn't let my mind go to that dark place. It was, okay, this is just a hurdle. This is just something I got to deal with. It sucks. It's terrible, but just push through it. And I think that was the big key because when I did come back, I played great. Didn't really skip a beat, it was over 300 for the year or 299, whatever it was. And really position myself again to be at that next level. Come back to spring training. So this would be this is 2004. Come back to spring training and same thing. Exceed, excel, go to major league games, back and forth every other day. And I'm back in A-ball. Like it made no sense. And I went into the farm director's office and at the end of spring, I said, hey, Oneri, I think I have earned an opportunity to go to AA. And he ripped me a new one.
Really?
I mean, it was like, who do you think you are coming in telling me what you deserve, what to do this? And I was so caught off guard because I wasn't doing it in a derogatory way or feel bad for myself. It was just like, please walk me through and explain why I'm still here after 3 years. And finally, he got to the point where he just said, listen, the business of baseball. His initial reaction was hopefully more out of frustration for me.
Right.
Because he said, well, let's go through it. This guy got $1 million. This guy got $800,000. Those are their investments. So this is their put up or shut up year. They have to go up. And we know you're going to do well. We know you're going, and so it's like, okay, well, great, thanks. I'm glad that I'm going to do well, but they're going and I'm not.
Yeah.
So I dealt with it mentally. Got to do what I got to do. So I played. Cubs made a trade for a kid, Matt Merton. He was with the Red Sox, and I played against him a little bit at Georgia Tech. So he got traded to the Cubs with Nomar Garciaparra, and it was right about halfway through the season. And I was like, man, he's coming and this, whatever. That day, I get promoted finally to AA. I go to AA. My first game, I went 3 for 5, hit a home run. I mean, it was like, it took off like a rocket.
Yeah.
By the end of the season, I was in AAA. I bypassed all those guys, went to AAA, played in the playoffs, and then went to Major League Spring Training in 2005. So it went from, again, I'm not going anywhere. It seemed like forever. I look back on time, and it was like, nothing of a time frame. But the acceleration from A ball, AA, AAA, Major League Spring Training, hit 500 in Major League Spring Training. Dusty Baker was the manager, and I knew that it was really starting to get a matter of time. I mean, it was amazing, and started in AA, didn't go to AAA, but again, didn't matter at that point. And about halfway through the season on July 7th, my life changed forever. Yeah, we were watching. We played. We went to the field. Matt Merton and I, same guy, went to the field. Manager called us in the office and said, "Hey, you guys aren't going to play today," and we don't like to not play. So frustrated, didn't know why.
Yeah.
And then we stayed behind. The team went and took off to Jacksonville, Florida. It was like a 13-hour bus ride. So the manager said, "Hey, you're either going to be meeting us flying to Jacksonville or meeting the team, the AAA team, wherever the heck they were." So Matt and I were watching the Cubs game. They were playing the Braves that night in a doubleheader. So they lost the first game. They were playing the second game. And our agent, we had a shared agent, and he called and he said, "Hey, root against the Cubs like you've never rooted against them in your life." And I'm like, all right, I grew up a Yankee fan, and I didn't really care for the Cubs. Didn't matter to me. So sure, great. Cubs ended up losing on a go-ahead home run by Jeff Francoeur, who was a younger guy at the time. And Matt and I are high-fiving, and we're jumping up and down in the hotel room. Don't know why, but we're like, all right, cool. So the Cubs lose, and literally maybe 20 minutes later, we get a phone call, and it was our manager from AA, and who they were still driving. They were on the bus. They were still trucking away. And he said, "Hey, put the phone on speaker." And he's like, "Hey, you guys you're going to be going to Florida." Now, we knew the AA team is going to Jacksonville. So it's like, okay, great.
Right.
So he's like, "Yeah, you're going to be getting on a flight and you're going to go to Miami and you're meeting the team to play the Marlins." And at that point, I mean, it's just like, you want to talk about emotions taking over.
I can't imagine.
It was incredible, like insane. So then it was like, and I talk about it in this sense. When you're an athlete and in the minor league specifically, you're on a team.
Yeah.
When one of your teammates gets promoted, no matter what anyone says, I don't care if it's your brother, it's your best friend, it doesn't matter. You're happy for them, but you're also a little let down.
Of course.
That's not you.
Yeah.
Owning that is a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So the experience that I got was with Matt Merton, who we both went through the same thing to get there. And we both got the call to go to the major leagues at the same exact time. And we were alone. It was like something that I'll never be able to experience again or explain how incredible it is. Like, you could be with your mom and dad, right? And they're going to be unbelievably happy for you.
Yeah.
And maybe your brothers and sisters the same. But when you're with somebody who feels the exact same thing and is going through the exact same emotions, that was priceless. So we were watching baseball tonight, and Peter Gammons is talking about us with a smile on his face, like, "Oh, these kids are coming to the Cup."
Yeah.
It was surreal.
Yeah. So you had someone to share it with.
Had something to share it with, and I'll never forget that night either. I was looking over, and he's sleeping like a baby, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" I didn't sleep a minute, not 1 minute did I sleep. My mind was just going the whole time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So yeah, that's kind of where the story starts or begins, however you want to say, because that was the beginning of my major league career. Right. One of which I was convinced was a 10-year minimum career. I'll be playing because my style of play, I can play defense, I can run, I can get on base, I can do the intangibles, especially in the National League. Like, I'll be somewhere. Somebody's going to want me for a long time to come. And that first game, I didn't play.
Yeah.
Dusty Baker said, "Hey man, take it easy. Congrats, you're here." I mean, Greg Maddux is in the clubhouse saying hi. Aramis Ramirez, Derek Lee, Kerry Wood, Mark Pryor. I mean, big name guys.
Yeah.
Moises Alou. I mean, it was like, and I played with them in spring training, but now they're my teammates. Now we're here, and they were just like, "We're so glad to have you. Like we need you."
That's amazing. I mean, it's such a culmination of everything you've worked for your entire life. A couple of the things that I learned about in the book was your approach to baseball. So some of the things that got you there that I was really impressed by. One of the things that I think was brought up was the fact that you were always a team player. So baseball is that sport where, it's individual accomplishments. Much of the game is an individual accomplishment, but we celebrate them as a team, and we need everybody to make it. So if you're not winning as a team, it doesn't matter what those individual accomplishments are.
Correct.
All right. So, I mean, that's one thing I think that kind of, if you have that mindset, it does set you apart. Also, your approach to the game itself, there was a little tidbit in there about how you broke down how long it took to steal a base. Can you talk about that before we get into the next part of this story? I just want to hear about how you actually broke that apart and how you used it as a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays it's like, okay, congratulations, thanks, good for you. You did some analytics.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, back in the day, it was if I take a lead off first base, it didn't matter who was pitching or who was catching, so long as I knew my time from first to second. Well, you just add the math. What does he take as a pitcher to throw it to home, and what does the catcher take to throw it from home to second? So this simple math just came in where it's like, all right, my lead can be what it is, and if I know the pitcher, and again, back then it was starting to be more kind of, all right, we're going to pay attention, but it wasn't the analytics where you knew before you even got to the field who was pitching, what their times were, and what kind of break he had on his pitch, what count he's throwing, what pitch to. So it was just being a student of the game. And again, it was like, if I do the math, I'm going to win. There's not, you're not throwing me out. It's not happening.
It must have also given you something to strive for in your training, right? You needed to be this fast.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, and that was always the thing. How do I get better? How do I get faster?
Yeah.
How do I sustain that? And that's part of, I was just talking about it because I'm playing pickup basketball now with a bunch of buddies, and it's great. But I mean, when you go up, you show up at 5 in the morning, 5:45 in the morning. We're playing at 6. I mean, I was stretching and foam rolling for 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
The optimal level of performance for my body, sleep. I mean, now I got 3 kids, so there's no optimal sleep that I'm getting.
Yep. There's
no optimal time that I'm stretching, and to be at that level, it was my job.
Yeah.
So so it's a dedication to that, because I knew even if I did legs and I'm doing squats one day, I knew that I was going to be a fraction of a tenth slower because my legs were going to be heavier, and it was just like, it got so finicky of that. And I used to look at guys that were not as in shape and not base stealers and not guys that relied on speed. I'm like, man, their life is easy. Really? So.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I just love, because that's something you take into anything else you do in life, right? It's you set a goal for yourself, or you see a problem, you solve it, and then you make it tangible. So this is what I need to do to accomplish this.
Correct. I mean, like you just said, business.
Yeah.
Every single thing follows the same formula. What am I trying to do? Where am I trying to get to? What do I need to do personally? And then what do we need to do as a team? And then as you mentioned, the team element for me was, I don't score runs if my teammates aren't doing their job. How do I do a better job for my teammates to get me and get them RBIs and get me to get a run score?
Yeah.
So again, it's an individual, but it's a team sport.
Right.
The pitcher has to throw strikes in order for me to make plays on defense. If the pitcher is taking 5 minutes between pitches and we're all putting our head down and he's throwing ball and we're not on our toes, then the ball finally does get hit. And so it's a very unique game. It's high speed at the slowest level.
Right. Yeah.
It's 100%, 110% for a very short period of time with a whole lot of downtime versus basketball, soccer, hockey. I mean, you're constantly going and there's constantly action, which is why nowadays baseball in this culture is not appreciated the same way.
Yeah, right.
Because I want it now. I want it immediately. Yeah. I have to have something that's happening, swiping, like on their phones. Everything is quick. I got to order something and it's going to show up not in a week, it's going to show up in an hour, right?
Yeah.
So baseball is that delayed gratification. Mm-hmm. Ton of work. And you're like, well, you get up 4 times, 5 times maybe in a game, and you could go 0 for 3, 0 for 4, or 0 for 5, and then you got to wait the whole next day for 4, maybe 5 more at-bats of the mental grind of why would people want to put themselves through it? And again, that's where it's like, because it's the most mentally taxing yet accomplished of sports, because it's unique. Every single day is something different, and
it really is. And there's so much strategy involved. There's so much that goes into it. I mean, I think it's the greatest game. I really do. So now going back to you're on a big league team. Mm-hmm. You're in the show. I mean, you're seeing all these guys that are at the top of the game, and you get to sit for that first game. So you have a minute to catch your breath, right? Yeah,
it was the first time I was ever okay with sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I bet.
Ever. Number one, I had 0 sleep, literally 0. Yeah. Number 2, I signed my major league contract. So at the time, it was like $316,000. And I'm given an envelope of $100 bills from the traveling secretary. I look into it and I was like, what's this for? And he goes, it's your meal money. If you don't want it, give it back. And I'm like, this is more than I made last month. Right. So no, I'm good. So it was really cool just to be experiencing that side of it, knowing that from financially, I'll never have to worry about anything. Yeah. That's kind of at least how I felt then. And I get to play the game that I love. And what's cooler than this? I get to unpack my bags for the first time and say, they're unpacked. I'm not going anywhere other than the trips that we're going on. Yeah. We flew first. I flew first class with Matt, and that was a cool experience. I'm like, I could get used to this. And then, the Cubs, they have their own plane, so it's a different world.
Yeah.
But I sat on the bench. Dontrell Willis, who was one of the top left-hand pitchers in the game, he was starting. So Dusty's like, take a day off, just enjoy it. Just enjoy being here. And then the next night is when I got my opportunity, and I didn't start again. They had another lefty, and I could hit lefties. It wasn't an issue, but that's just kind of the way that the cards fell. But in the 9th inning, I got my opportunity. And Dick Pohl, who was the bench coach, yells down. He goes, hey, Greeny, get a bat. And I had the bat with me. I was taking swings every inning. Yeah. I was ready. Same thing. It's like I was stretching. I'm doing my running, finding paths down under the clubhouse, just to stay prepared. Yeah. And I never forget this story. One of my first major league pinch hit appearances, it was against Tom Gordon, and I never pinch hit in my life. Right? I was always the starter and always played the whole game or whatever. So my first pinch hit experience was against Tom Gordon, and as a leadoff guy, my first pitch always, I say 99.9% of the time I'm taking the first pitch of the game, and he throws a 95 or 96 mile an hour fastball right down the middle, and I was like, man, I got this guy. And 3 of the most disgusting curveballs I'd ever seen. Yeah. Later, I swung and missed and took myself back to the dugout, and it was that moment, again, the learning side of baseball.
Right.
If I ever get that opportunity again, not necessarily against Tom Gordon, but anybody who is a reliever who's got an out pitch, you got to jump on that best first pitch. If you've been sitting on the bench the whole game,
yeah. Sometimes it's the only one you see, right?
It's the best one, could be the only one that you see, and so that approach I took into my pinch hit in the 9th inning, July 9, 2005, and I get up there, and it was a lefty pitcher. Didn't know the guy's name. It's Valerio de los Santos. But didn't know his name, didn't know what he threw, didn't care. Didn't matter. He's got a white ball. He's got to throw it over the plate. That's it. probably has a slider, most likely. But again, it's fastball, it's go to the zone, fastball, and hit off that. That's how it is. It doesn't really change who's pitching. You just know, all right, 12-6, so your eyes can go up and track and see whatever. Certain spins, pick that up. But the point was, it's an ESPN Sunday night, nationally televised game. I'm up. All those things aren't running through my head then, but I got to get on base.
Yeah.
I got to do my job, get on base. Leadoff guy, who was Todd Hollingsworth, he ground out to second base, and then I come up. And I look into the outfield, and I see Juan Pierre shifted, shaded towards left field, and the guy goes into his motion, starts releasing the ball, and it started kind of behind my head, but he's a left-hand pitcher, and I, as I said, I wasn't thinking about all of these things leading up to the at-bat, but in the first 1/10 of a second, as the ball's coming at me, it was, don't bail, stay in there, don't look stupid. If it's a breaking ball, it's my first major league pitch.
Yeah.
Stay in there.
Yeah.
And that's 10th 1. 10th 2 was, that's not breaking. That's not a breaking ball. That's a fastball. And 10th 3 is, get out of the way. And if you look at that and just think about what I'm saying from a time perspective, you have 0.3 of a second to react to a 92-mile-an-hour fastball coming and being released to the catcher's mitt. So to have all of those thoughts, it just shows you the power of the brain of how much you can think about in just a short period of time. Yeah. So nonetheless, it was, I didn't bail, and the only way to get out was to turn my head to try to avoid the contact with the ball. And 92-mile-an-hour caught me right up under the helmet, square on my head, and it was like a explosion like I'd never heard in my life.
Yeah.
I thought my head split, and I thought when I grabbed my head, I thought I was holding it together because I thought I was bleeding out and going to die.
Right, yeah.
My eyes rolled in the back of my head, and at this point, I went from, oh my God, this is the coolest thing in the world, to, oh my God, I'm going to die. And so I said 2 words 3 times. I said, stay alive, stay alive, stay alive. It's like watching the movies. Like, that's what I told myself. And sure enough, so I stayed conscious throughout the entire thing. Paul LaDuca, who was the catcher for the Marlins, he stands over me. And thankfully, he was calm. And what I mean by that is he said, hey, stay there. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So that stopped me from completely freaking out. And he didn't say, go get a towel. Like, he didn't have that panic.
Because you think there's blood everywhere.
I think there's blood everywhere. Because I could feel it in my hands that they were soaking wet.
Yeah.
And they were, it wasn't. It was just my imagination that was playing that little trick on me. But it was a pretty freaky moment.
I bet. And you had your family there too, right?
Yeah, all my brothers and sisters, my mom and dad. My oldest sister wasn't able to make it, but everyone was there. I had a bunch of friends, and a lot of people were there.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine as a parent watching that.
I couldn't either. Back then, it was no big deal to me.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, okay, I got hit.
Right.
Whatever. But now having kids, to see something, I'll call it tragic, or potentially tragic, happen where you have no control over it, it must have been pretty devastating and tough to watch. Yeah,
for sure. As a parent, I think that's your biggest fear, is just watching your child go through anything like that.
Yep.
So, I mean, what an incredible chain of events. I mean, you're at the highest of highs and immediately knocked back down, right? It does seem to me, knowing this whole story and knowing your experience, that you were kind of a 1 step forward, 2 steps back kind of person. That's what you were going through, right? You were getting to a certain level, you were getting this success, and something would knock you back. And it was that dedication to perseverance that kept you going. But this had to have been probably the ultimate one, right? The ultimate challenge.
Yeah, at the time, it certainly was. But again, going back to the finger, then going back to the bat that I slid over, and the multiple surgeries. I forgot there was a wrist surgery in between there.
Yeah.
I popped my TFCC in off season doing weightlifting. All of those experiences, and this is why I always say challenges and obstacles and things that you've gone through are tremendous.
Yeah.
If you learn from them. So I was kind of a battered soldier in some regard. Like I had created my own kind of how to overcome whatever I was going through. And when it happened, the trainer came out, and after he sits me up, he asked me 3 questions. First question was, the standard, like, how many fingers am I holding up? And the second one, I had to follow his finger to make sure that I was seeing and tracking. And the third one was, where was I 2 days ago? And when I talk to people about, are you committed to something? Do you really want something? Do you have to have it? You want success. You want success in your life. You want success in your marriage. You want success in your business. You want whatever it is. I usually call bullshit. I usually say, I'm gonna say you probably don't. And what I mean is, you may think you do and you may say you want it, but have you committed everything? Or have you given it what it would actually take to accomplish those things? And the reason I say usually not is because it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of dedication. It's a lot of sacrifice. So when he asked me the third question, where was I 2 days ago? My answer was quickly. I was in the minor leagues and I'm not going back. So to have your life flash in front of you, being here and then being, and you guys can't see, but being at the top of the world and then immediately at the very, very bottom of, like, am I going to live?
Right.
Not am I going to play, am I going to live? To have that be my response, I say that because that's how dedicated I was. There was nothing that was going to stand in my way. So when it came time for training or rehab, I had to see 17 different doctors because no one diagnosed me. No one could pin why my eyes were shifting side to side uncontrollably. Yeah. You could see my eyes shifting, and then I would lose balance. I remember falling in the airport. Every time I'd lay down, my eyes would shift uncontrollably, and then I'd be left with migraine-like headaches, almost like a migraine, then go on a roller coaster and then sit there.
Right.
It was absolutely horrible and nerve-wracking from a perspective of nobody could pinpoint what's wrong, so am I ever going to get better? That was the only doubt that I ever had, but the dedication to, I'm going to find my path. So in a diagnosis of somebody's illness or an undiagnosed something or something that somebody's struggling or going through, it's up to you. It's not to the doctor to tell you you're going to be okay or you're not. It's your mindset that's going to allow you to find the solution, to find the pathway, and not listen to somebody that says, oh, no, you can't. Yeah. So everyone that would say, well, I don't know what's wrong, doesn't seem like, I don't know, I'm going to find it. And that's what I did. My mom at the time, I mean, she shares that similar mentality of at least not accepting that this is it. So helped to find and found a bunch of different doctors. And finally, I was diagnosed over the phone.
That's amazing.
And I was diagnosed with benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. And when you think about it, and you're like, well, how did all these people not get it? I was crushed with a ball. Your inner ear has these crystals, and the crystals erupted and exploded. And every time one of those crystals would go inside one of the canals in my inner ear, well, my eyes would go bonkers and I would lose whatever. So, but it was awesome because I then found a method of training to get better. And that training was called the Epley maneuver, where I would do these self-manipulations and really reposition the crystals in your inner ear. So lay back and put myself into vertigo, which was not fun.
Yeah, I bet.
But doing all these repositioning things to get the crystals to stabilize. And I did that multiple times a day, absolutely excruciating, horrible. But again, that was the sacrifice of, well, I need to get better. So I have to be doing these things.
Yeah.
So I had to deal with that for about 2.5 years. And I started playing baseball again 21 days after the injury, and was dealing with vertigo and was dealing with manager questioning, am I faking my symptoms? I mean,
this is not an arm injury or leg injury that you can see in rehab from. This is something they don't understand.
Correct. And what makes it, like, if you look nowadays, you're pulled out of a game from, and one of my friends, he works for the NHL. And he works in New York, and he watches the games all over. And if there's a hit that he determines that there's potential concussion, he pulls them off the ice from New York.
Wow.
So, but and the same is true with all head injuries now. It's a big deal. They understand CTE. They understand what happens with concussions and how much detrimental and sustained damages that could happen if you continue to go. Mine was, are you good?
Yeah.
Or like, what's the deal? Why aren't you playing? So, and I look back and I go, 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever I went through it, I would have been getting Major League service time. And I would have been, and Major League service time is great because you get health insurance, you get the salary, and then you become arbitration eligible, and then you have service time, so they assume you're a Major League. It's just wild of what.
And that didn't exist for you.
No, I was 21 days in the Major Leagues, and then I was in the minors as a nobody.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but I didn't care. And I say that because I was just back to do what I have to do. The goal was still there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow myself to be the guy who got hit in the head my first pitch and that's it. Like I just pedaled around in the minor leagues for whatever.
Right.
So that determination almost grew stronger. I did lose some fire, and that wasn't because it was my choice, but getting hit in the head the way that I did, I had to do the positional vertigo, the Epley maneuver thing, and then I did go through some nutritional deficiency things, so which is ultimately why I founded my nutrition company, because I was helped from a nutritional aspect to get mental clarity and focus and things like that put me in a different state of mind, because again, I didn't understand, why am I not the same? Why did I not have that killer mentality? I had the drive, but not that same killer mentality. And then I found an ophthalmologist who figured out that after the next couple of years of struggle, that my vision got derailed. So I could see fine. I mean, I could do one eye at a time. I could see, but my convergence and divergence, the way that my eyes were working together to bring a baseball together to a contact point. I'll use the term, it was 13 steps off the target. So I was trying to pull a triangle into a rectangle with 3D glasses, and I was doing that. Your eyes are pulling it together, and it's right in the middle of the rectangle, and then I take the glasses off, I'm 13 steps away from that rectangle right in the center.
Wow.
So to say I hit 209 the following year after I got hit, it was like, how the hell did that happen?
Wow. Right.
And then seeing the test results, it was like, man, I pat myself in the back and go, damn, I hit 209. That's pretty damn good.
Right. It's how did you do that with going through all of what you were dealing with?
So that's where it was another piece of, now there's vision training that I can do to improve my vision to get better.
Yeah.
So again, all of these things, I was helped along the way. So the ophthalmologist, Dr. Barry Seiler, unfortunately just recently passed away, which is tragic for me.
I'm so sorry.
He literally saved my, not career, but I would say part of my life.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Michael Leibowitz, who is a naturopath and kinesiologist, he gave me that nutritional pathway and understanding how to take care of myself holistically. And then the other doctor who helped me with the Epley maneuver. But each of those three guys have been able to instill something in me to be able to give back. Yeah. And that was the point. Anytime somebody has positional vertigo, I'm like, okay, well, let me help. Anytime I know somebody has nutritional deficiencies or struggling with X, Y, or Z, that's why I started my nutrition business, because I'm like, well, I can help more people with visual edge, performance trainer, and helping with convergence and divergence and short-term memory and all the things that your eyes as a muscle can do to help your life. It was, well, let me help. Yeah. So again, because I was helped in so many different ways, the challenges that I went through, I'm like, wow, why wouldn't I share this, and why wouldn't I try to help?
Right. You pass it on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. There's so much to your story that I feel like we can dig into and spend a lot of time on. We've already taken a lot of your time today. I do want to kind of talk more about what you're doing now and how this experience kind of informed what your path was. or if there are things that you want to promote that you're working on, I'd love to hear about those things as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing in terms of promotion is get the book to then give it to somebody.
Yeah.
Because it's a starting block for motivation and inspiring, but then taking that to the next step. With my nutrition business, I sold the company, but we built a online nutrition challenge platform. And what's so cool about putting yourself and doing challenges is you have to be inspired about something. So something has to spark you a little bit, but then you have to do something.
Yeah.
You can't just listen to a motivational talk and say, my life's different. No, your life's exactly the same. You just feel a little bit excited and motivated right this moment. What are you going to do with that?
Exactly.
So I'll promote somebody else's stuff. His name's Andy Frisella. He has a challenge called 75 Hard. And I did it about a year ago. And it's 75 days of what you could look at as almost an impossible task, or you can look at it as, man, this is gonna be challenging and being uncomfortable, but forcing you to do it. And it's drink a gallon of water a day. It's do 2 workouts a day, 2 workouts per day, 45 minutes. One has to be outside. Read 10 pages of a motivational, inspirational book. Take a picture every day, and no drinking alcohol, and follow a diet.
Right.
So the reason why I kind of bring that up is it forces you as an individual to be uncomfortable, set goals, do them, no excuses.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you strengthen your mind. Mm-hmm. And when your mind is strengthened and you're working at your physical body, and again, the workouts could be walking for 45 minutes twice a day or doing push-ups outside. But whatever it is, it's if I have to be outside, and I did this last year during the winter.
Yeah.
45 minutes every day in the sleet, snow, rain, bitter cold.
No excuses.
Or zero excuses. Yeah. You recognize the value of what you can accomplish. And when you create self-worth and you create a strengthening of your mind and listening to other motivational people who have gone through challenges and struggles, you start to stop looking at the little things as a big deal, mm-hmm. and you focus on, well, what's actually going to make me happy? And you realize that having success and being uncomfortable and overcoming those things give you happiness.
Yeah.
And then you start opening your mind to other things and other opportunities. So again, for me, self-promotion is how to promote people to find that passion within themselves. Mm-hmm.
The company that you had, though, that was the Lurong
Living, yeah.
Okay, and you said you sold that company?
I sold the business right at the beginning of COVID.
Okay.
It was a tough thing for me because I thought I was going to do it for the rest of my life,
yeah.
And that's how I feel like with everything. But fortunately, it has stirred all of these other things and opportunities that I've been presented with, and so right now I'm doing real estate development, and
yeah.
And I have this electric leasing and rental company called Plugged, and it's cool because what my decision was in life path has started to kind of morph into is how can I give my kids the most time. How can I help the most amount of people, and how can I raise my kids? Because we were just talking to Scott Burney that I played ball with growing up, and he's got a 15-year-old son in high school, and my kids are 4, 6, and 8, and in a blink of an eye, like they're out of the house.
It goes by quick. So
I made that decision to sell the business and not do 50 things that I was doing because. Yeah. Again, I'm fortunate. I feel like because I can and I will. It was getting to that point of even back to baseball. How can I be laser focused and do 500 things?
Yeah.
So to be as good of a dad as I can and raise my kids and be excited about their sports and not be stressed out. Oh my God, they have practice and they have. I didn't want to do that.
It sounds like that's what you have to have now.
I have to have
right?
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my story is a little similar. I'll just share briefly about it because Scott and I grew up together. We played baseball as kids. His dad was one of my coaches, and I was working for nonprofit for years after the whole acting thing, and got to a point where it was nights and weekends. It was my whole life, and I had kids. I had young kids. And the turning point for me was when they started playing baseball. I was missing out on those weekends. I wasn't making it to their, it was T-ball or whatever it was.
Same thing.
And I was trying to, I wanted to coach. I wanted to do all those things, and I couldn't. And luckily, I had reconnected with Scott randomly. And he said, I think you'd be really good at selling Medicare. And there's an opening at Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield. They don't open very often. That's what I'm doing. Why don't you come and check it out? And it set me on a path. And he ended up going independent. I ended up following in his footsteps. The motivation behind it really was, how can I maximize the time I have so I could be there with my kids and I don't miss out on those opportunities? Scott and I, we coached our kids through Little League. We're done coaching now. They've outgrown us. But I mean, that is the best thing I think I've ever done. It's something I have so much value for.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. I think it becomes so important. And your path too, where you were sacrificing so much monetarily when you were following your dream, that wellness company, it sounded like, I'm just getting to this part of the book, but it sounded like that was really something that helped you to start kind of building back and getting to where you wanted to go financially, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wrote about it in the book. I talk about it in my speeches, and I'm not ashamed of it. I gave everything to the baseball.
Yeah.
Everything, including every dollar that I had. I filed bankruptcy in 2008, and I think it was 2009, 2010, I launched my company.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I can get rid of some mental baggage, and I was the guy who was helping people avoid foreclosures and avoid bankruptcy by negotiating with banks and buying their house and helping them. And here I was, gave it all to the game, and hit a bad market, obviously, in 2008 with the crash. But it was something that, again, I didn't ever see myself as. I was always, I got to do it right, got to do it this way, but here in America, the great opportunity it's a land of opportunity. Hopefully can continue to be that, or get it back, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was, I'm not ashamed in any way of anything that I did, and I wouldn't change anything, because if it was easier, then again, I'm not sitting here and not able to share and help.
Yeah.
But yeah, my company was the thing that got me back on my feet financially, and then it's been a grind always. Everything is always a grind, no matter what. The greatest opportunities are going to be filled with struggles and headaches, and this has been a personal, challenging year with a few things that I've gone through with some individuals. But again, being in a good headspace, yes, there's frustrations, and people can do things and hurt you and hurt your family, and it affects you to a degree. But if you have that calloused mind and that calloused kind of approach to life, you can go overcome anything, and you just got to work through it and put the right people around you. I
think that's an amazing message. I think it's amazing that you're sharing that and you're telling your story and using it to motivate other people, to inspire other people. I don't want to wrap up just yet, because I do want to kind of get to the point where we talk about what happened toward the end of your baseball career. So I know this is running a little bit long. You have a few more minutes for us?
Few more, yeah.
Okay. So I just want to kind of go over a couple of things. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the ones I listen to is Armchair Expert. And Dax Shepard, who's an actor, and he got to a certain point in his career where he got the opportunity he wrote and directed the Chips remake, and starred in it. So he was at the top of his career, and he tells this story a lot on the podcast, but he talks about how that was a high point in his career, and then the box office was just trash. It didn't do well, it didn't perform, and that led to depression and all of these other things. He always says that, if he put it in perspective, if he went back and told his 12-year-old self that he got to direct a movie where he got to do all these stunts on motorcycles and drive fast cars, the last thing that kid is going to say is, what was the box office, right? And it reminds me of your story as well, because when I hear all of the things that you experienced in baseball alone, I mean, the things that you did, the hitting for the cycle, that you're in the record books, you're playing for a college and then making it all the way to the big leagues. Then also this next part of the story that we'll end on, when you get a chance to come back and you had Marlins Stadium to yourself was it your father-in-law and your father?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, that part to me, I mean, that's a great thing to have. So all of those things, your story is such a success story. And I'm so glad that we had you here today. I'm hoping we'll have you back at some point. But tell us a little bit just about how it wraps up as far as the baseball career.
Yeah. So it was a 7-year journey. And it took 7 years. And I had the nutrition business that I mentioned. It was 2012. I finally decided that I wasn't done, but I had never taken a break. Never. And I was going to focus on my business. I was going to stay physically fit and ready and know that because I had a shoulder surgery and I never recovered from it for real.
Yeah, right.
So to give myself mental and physical break to get mentally and physically ready for that next opportunity, 2012, I made that choice. And then I got a call from Team Israel, and I knew that was my start. I'm going to go. It was about halfway through the season. I was going to go. I was going to make that team. And, or halfway through the season, I got the call. I was going to go. I was going to train. I was going to be ready. And that was going to be my platform to make it to a major league team, or at least get to spring training and get back up to the big leagues. Yeah. Insight in mind, out of sight, out of mind. So that was the deal. I was told I wasn't going to make the team. I said to Brad Osmus, I said, yeah, you can go take that and shove it up where, because I am making the team. So let's go. And so at the time it was like Sean Green was going to be on the team. Gabe Kapler was playing as a player coach. Jock Peterson, just some names but I went down there, and Gabe Kapler decided to give up his spot on the team for me because of the fact that I was the more prepared player. Right.
Yeah.
And here we go. I'm playing great. We lose in the championship game. It was the only game that I didn't get into. I was absolutely horrified that we lost, and even more horrified that I thought I was taking my cleats off for the last time. And at the end of the game, this guy, Matt Liston, who had done this campaign to try to get me back to the major leagues, and he was almost acting like my agent. And I told him, I said, there's no gimmicks. I said, get me to spring training, and my agent's not doing anything for me anymore. So go, do whatever it takes. Yeah. And the end of the game happens. I take my cleats off, and he calls me. I'm like, dude, what? He's like, I just want to see when you're going to be done. It's 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. So I said, I'll be out when I'm ready. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not being a jerk, but this is, I just need time. So I get out, and he's like, hey, can we do an exit interview? And I said, yeah, sure. You're not going to get happy Adam. You're going to get raw me.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
So he puts on the mic, he gets me all set up, and then his phone rings, and it's the iPhone, and you could see it's David Sampson of the Miami Marlins, who was the president at the time. And it's just bizarre. I'm like, okay, what the hell is he calling for? And essentially he puts me on the phone, he puts it on speaker, and he's like, hey, we were there 7 years ago when you got hit. We thought that you were okay. Nobody really heard anything about it. No big deal. But your story came to our attention more recently. We sent our scouts out to watch you, and he goes, you're a big leaguer. And that's it. And I'm like, and he's like, we want to bring you in October 2nd to play against the Mets. And I'm like, again, oh my God, I'm getting called up for the second time, for the first time. It was surreal. And then I had to keep that. I wasn't allowed to tell my teammates. Yeah. So we're all having this exit party and whatever. And my wife just found out that her twin sister had 40 new brain tumors that they found. I mean, it was high and low. Here, my wife's a disaster, a complete mess, and I'm at the happiest point of my life. And I'm like, this sucks, but it was really... Yeah.
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot.
Everything that I always have to deal with is like that, high and low. And I'm like, okay, try to figure this one out.
Right.
So I had to keep quiet. I flew to New York, went on the Today Show, had a national announcement with David Sampson. And I mean, again, I didn't act like I was happy, or like I was hearing it for the first time. It was like, man, this is now real and everyone knows. So after that experience, high-fiving the police officers and everyone in the Today Show, I'm going to MLB Network studios, these studios, on every media outlet on the sun. But the point and the message that was so exciting for me was message of perseverance. Don't ever quit. Don't give up. Don't let anyone tell you can't. You won't. It's not going to happen. And there were many people that said it. What are you doing? You're playing in Bridgeport. You're making $0. But I would never been able to lay my head down at night knowing that I didn't give it everything that I had. So here I got that opportunity, and to your point, I ended up going to Marlins Stadium. I had Heath Bell bring me to his place. He met me there. He's like, dude, you're a big leaguer. No one is going to deny that of you. Yeah. John Carlos Stanton was one of my teammates. John Buck was the catcher, and he told the team, he stood up and he said, I played with this kid in Kansas City. He's a big leaguer. You guys are going to treat him like that. And they ended up making me dress in a Speedo and a freaking Nike Freeze, and I had to do a dance.
You were part of the team.
I was part of the team, but it was the most special moment because, and I'll use the world got to see, the world got to be a part of my experience, and I kind of told everyone it's a part of our experience. We're all doing this because we all go through this every day. So. R.A. Dickey was the pitcher, Cy Young Award-winning knuckleballer that year, and it's like really like 7 years, and they get to face the Cy Young Award-winning knuckleballer. Like this is
right.
They give me Syndergaard, give me DeGrom, give me anybody. But anyway, it was pretty remarkable to come out to Aerosmith, Dream On, 40,000 people, which God only knows why there was that many people at that game in Miami, standing ovation, holding up these one at bat signs. And I saw 3 knuckleballs that were the craziest knuckleballs I'd ever seen. Took the first pitch, struck out on the next, swung through the next 2, and was so disappointed for about a split moment in time. And then the crowd erupted, and I couldn't feel bad. And I looked up, and teammates high-fiving, and it was like my story is, again, to the point that the success of the at-bat was irrelevant. The success had already happened because I was there and got called up. So
100%.
So that's kind of where it, again, that became the next new start of the story because and I'll kind of end on this part of it. Whatever you're going for and striving and whatever your goal is, when you get there, it doesn't mean anything. Because when you get there, you can appreciate it, but then what do you die? Are you done? What is next in your life? So as quickly as you can be happy and have accomplished it, and you can enjoy it and revel and appreciate it, okay, what's the next chapter? Next? So that's kind of where my life has just completely been totally different than anything I would have ever thought, but all exciting nonetheless, and so fun and exciting, and different people and different things and opportunities, and
That's amazing, Adam. I mean, this story is simply incredible. I bought the book yesterday during the snow day. I'm 90% of the way through it. I'm going to get a physical copy because I got it on the Kindle, but I'm going to get a physical copy for each of my kids. I told them, you guys are going to read this. You're going to listen to this podcast. This is important.
Nice.
This has been just such a pleasure to have you on. I recommend everyone go out on Kindle, go on Amazon, get this book. It's an absolutely amazing story. And this is Adam Greenberg's book, Get Up, The Art of Perseverance. It's something you're going to want to share with your kids. And it's not just sports. These are lessons for life. So we really appreciate you giving us the time today. I hope we can have you back. There's so many more details about this story I'm into, and would love to ask about it one time. So hopefully we can get you back on the podcast at some point.
Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. The Sounds of Health podcast is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors, and it's recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group in North Haven, Connecticut. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave MacNiven, with music by Rob Hames. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen. Each week, our goal is to shine a light on your path to improved health by highlighting the stories of people who help our listeners to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Be sure to join us each week, and don't keep us a secret.